Peace or JB Motivation. Now, we're doing it a little bit differently. I know on episode number 5, I had a Zoom call. Well, I'm kind of outsourcing, playing around with the new programs and AIs and such. And we've kind of shifted over to Riverside. We're going to give this a try. So if there's any level of inconsistency, that being said, if you guys have been following the podcast for any amount of time, you should know my old right hand man, Chaz. He was my co host for almost the entirety of the first part, especially during season 1 of the podcast when we started everything. And honestly, that's what today is all about, right? I with the upcoming season 3, I say season 3, but we lost all the previous episodes. Still breaks my heart. I feel like I mention this every episode because I'm salty about it. Um, Here's the thing. I wanted to do this episode, especially now that you're coming back with me. Every now and again, whenever it's up to you, no pressure. um, to kind of take a little walk down memory lane, right? From when I first started to where you found me, what we did when everything back in the golden days, when everything was good, and kind of like what happened towards the end, and then kind of remind people why we're still even doing this. Why haven't we just been like, oh, that was a fun little time in our lives? That's low back in the good old days. But why we still, I don't want to say believe, but still find importance in this message, in this community, in this movement. Um, you are severely pixelated. So hopefully that doesn't show up on the recording. If there's any issues, right, let's just blame technology to start while we figure out the bugs and maybe figure out what went wrong. But anyway, I'll stop rambling. Chaz, I really appreciate you coming back on with me. I've missed our discussions. I've missed talking with you. And who knows, maybe we'll get some of the other guys too to join in. But this time, keep the conversations organized and progressive.
Right. Um, it's been a long journey. I mean, it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago we met on TikTok itself. I met you when you was the buff bartender, and I was reading your lives, and we meshed on a lot of our ideology. So there was a day in chat you mentioned that you would put together a Discord for your people, but you don't understand the app. I, however, understood the app. So I designed it and I went to you and said, "Hey, here's your community. You can have it." And you said, "How about you help me run it?" And we began, talking from there, and we started talking more about men's mental health, and you went down that path because you got good engagement on that. And it's definitely something worth pursuing because men don't have a lot of outlets. I feel like what you did in your time, it helped a lot of people because obviously we see that people say that. Uh,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, so we're you remember me since Buff Bartender. So were you there? You Yeah, I'm pretty sure you were there when I yes, you were with the Legion of Patriots. The first thing I tried to do. So for those of you that don't know, my first account ever was called the Buff Bartender. Because right before COVID, I went to bartending school and I was just this jack dude that didn't really drink, but I made drinks on TikTok. Um, Sometimes provocatively, per se. But it was so stupid. And then I was trying to figure out, I don't like doing this. I'm basically objectifying myself while also making really cool drinks. So I started talking, and then people seemed to really like that. And no one was doing anything because we were all, quarantined. And I'm like, all right, you know what? Let's. I don't like what's going on in America right now. I'm going to do something patriotic. I'm just coming out of the Marine Corps. I'm a fresh civilian again. Stupid. So I tried to start a community called the Legion of Patriots, which was basically just gonna kind of be like just a similar to like a grunt style thing. And that's when Chaz found me. because he's Navy, I'm Marine Corps, and we're like, yeah, we can get behind this. Um, yeah, Facebook couldn't. Facebook did not get behind us at all. Chaz, what happened?
Facebook, we spent probably 2 weeks building that, and they came back at us and said no and banned everyone's accounts that was a moderator of the group. I lost all of
Hmm.
my military memories.
Hmm. I felt so bad because it was originally my thing. And I made you guys admin to it, right? Because I wanted it to be just as much yours as it was mine. Everybody got deleted. And it was a business account too at that. So I got flagged all up and down with the Facebook business stuff. Well, I tried it again and I got banned again. And I purposely, the second time around, I avoided having you guys even a part of it because I didn't want you guys to get banned again. Well, lo and behold, I got banned again. And then finally, I'm like, screw it. I'm just creating one just for friends and family and stuff like that that not have anything to do with business. But the problem is now, and this is still an issue that I'm dealing with, is Facebook owns Instagram now. It's now all just Meta. I am permanently banned on anything that I make, old or new, from any sort of professional business account that could also be verified. So that's what happened. That's where we're at, right, with that. But with that being said, kind of progressing, moving forward after all that happened, I started with the uncrowned stuff after. No, it was right before my first Buff Bartender account got banned. I made a video, and if I'm able to find it and link it, I'll play that video over this video so you guys can see. It was called Man Up, and that video went viral instantly. Instantly, it took off, and for good reason, because so many men related to it on the fact that we are told to stay quiet so often. I mean, again, I'll see if I can try to find the video. That way, you'll know what I'm talking about, and you'll understand why. And then, literally right after that, I got banned on TikTok for the first time after I started soaring over 100,000 followers. Broke my heart, and I'm like, you know what? I know what I need to do now. Excuse me. Started a new account, and I called myself JB Motivation because JB my initials, and motivation because as much as I believe that discipline is more important than motivation, because I can't do the work for you, I'm the one that helps motivate you enough so you can get to that point. Also, on the video, I don't know why I'm glowing. Do you see that? I'm like flashing. It's like God is anointing me every single time I speak. It's like, you're speaking truth, my son. You're
It's
speaking truth, my son.
the light rendering.
I know it's weird. I don't know how to fit. I need a maybe an outside light or something. Either that, or I'm finally about to go Super Saiyan. Finally, I hope that's more the case, but that's besides the point. Um, and then we were trying to come up with names for it, and I remember stumbling upon the Uncrowned because at that time the feminist movement, right? I think it was third wave feminism. That one was just taken off, and it was this huge screw men, we don't need no men, blah, 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 whatever. And I'm like, you know what? Everyone's talking about, oh, put on your crown, king. You deserve your crown, this, crown, that, king, this, king, that. I'm like, okay, that's great and all, right? But what about the men that just kind of keep quiet, right? What about the men, especially at that time, like you and me, that we go to work, we make sure we're good, we take care of our business. Doesn't matter whether or not we're getting the support or appreciation at home, because at the end of the day, we still need to do what needs to get done. Right? It doesn't matter what's going on, how we feel, especially. You know what I mean? It is what it is. And we go and we do the work. We are the uncrowned kings. We're not looking for the extra validation. Is it nice? Sure. But at the end of the day, our job gets done. Our families are taken care of. Our partners are taken care of. We have our friends back if they need something. We handle our business, our griefs and our demons a little more privately. Um, and we don't need a crown, but we are still kings because we walk accordingly, you know?
Yeah, I think
And that stuck.
that because you presented it from a personal perspective, though, when you started with this, people got to understand you and feel like, okay, so it's a place of sincerity that he's coming from. And that's what they really melded with, was having someone honestly exposing themselves and saying, even though, let's work through it and let's do the work. And that is what really got people motivated and working towards a better, outcome.
Yeah. I think what probably helped me the most during that time is I was going through so much during that time that it gave me hella ideas for content. Like it was just everything that I was going through. Every video I made, I shouldn't say every, a lot of the videos that I had made, I was talking to myself. Some form or version of myself, whether that was little me, teenage me, older me, and sometimes future me. And I think that's what really spoke to a lot of people is when you try to single someone out in particular, whether that is you or not, and speak to them. I think that's when people really start to listen because it's not like a one size fits all type situation.
Yeah. Honestly,
So
it's just the
started
fact that
off with
people.
that,
Oh,
right? We started building the Discord. How did we get our where did our team come from? Because we had a group of like 5 or 6 guys that were just going through this.
so when people were joining up, I would I was just running things and, creating channels based on suggestions, recommendations, and whatnot. And I knew that at some point it was going to be larger than what I could maintain myself, and I couldn't always be there. So I was going to need to find people who could support me. Now, the way I did that was prioritizing people who were in the chats all the time, offering advice, and sometimes asking for advice, and being real with everyone, and including themselves. And that led me to several people. Some of them turned out to be narcissists, and some of them turned out to be great people who I still associate with.
Yeah, I will never forget. There was that one kid that no matter what advice we gave him, he was just dead set on one certain way. And we're like, if this is the way you're gonna be and you can't take mentorship or guidance or whatever, you can't be a part of the team, you know? But that really goes to show what men are capable of when we put aside the BS and we band together in a common good for a certain objective. Like all these guys want to be, oh, I'm a lone wolf, or I ain't got nobody, I ain't got no friends. Men loneliness is at an all-time high, not realizing that all it takes is just slowly coming together, understanding that hey, we're all going through this together. We all are hurting in some way, shape, or form. Every man's struggle is relative to another, and then look at the community that we formed. I mean, in less than a year, we had over 3,400 people in the Discord, active or not, but at least they were there.
Yeah.
Um, and then my first podcast, it was so bad. I didn't know any of the tech stuff. I just know people kept asking me for a podcast and asking me for a podcast. It was with um David Ziegler, the Ziegler monster, the bodybuilder, who is doing phenomenal now. By the way, he's blown up. He's getting all the detention attention he deserves. Super nice dude, and he was super patient with me too because he was on his up and up along with me. I couldn't get the recording right. I didn't realize that my Chromebook at the time couldn't support Zoom recording. I couldn't do it on my phone. So literally, it was a phone call and a recording. I had two separate things going, and I recorded the whole conversation on an outside source off of just a regular phone call. And that was the first ever episode of the Uncrowned podcast. So to have us come this far is incredible. Also, really sad to think about how much momentum was lost. Because then we had the merch site. People loved that. People loved that. That really made me happy. But it was a lot to manage, right? As much as I feel like I should have tasked out and delegated a little bit more to the team that was already there supporting. I think the issue was one, they couldn't all be you, and I couldn't just keep asking you to do stuff because you were already doing so much. Um, their skill level just wasn't quite there in terms of what we would have needed.
Yeah.
Because yes, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, I agree. I mean, the people that we had, some of them were still young or still lacking skills that would have benefited the back end.
Yeah, so I mean, it all fell on me. I mean, you helped run the Discord and the community part, which honestly that helped a lot because that was just a huge, huge chunk of everything that was going on is keeping those people involved. Um, and so I had outsourced all the merch, right? Because I didn't have the time to make anything in house. I had did the whole website, email marketing. I designed everything, all while making still 5 or 7 videos a day and doing the podcast, being guests on other podcasts. It was so much. But like you were telling me earlier, it's because I was doing all of that that it was able to continually grow off that momentum and that snowball. Um, but now where life's at right now, I don't have the time to do all that, which is why I'm looking to programs and automations and AI and stuff. Is it going to be exactly what I want or how it was before? No. But if I can still get something out there it consistently, I guess that's better than nothing. What do you
I
think?
mean, you're fulfilling your own wants right now as well. Like it's important to chase something that you feel emotionally attached to. Now, men's mental health is something that you feel really attached to. So you should never really give up on that. And taking advantage of technology is never going to be a bad or a downside. The AIs and all that, everybody else is doing that. They're just not admitting it. And the ones who do,
Mhm.
good on them. But I think that you taking the step back to say, you know what, there's something here that makes it easier. That's important growth because you're allowing yourself to rely on something that's not you to help you get the message out there.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, you got a point. Um, it feels almost disingenuous, because I'm used to making the videos right there in the moment, which that's where all my passion and my ideas come in. So it's just hard. The time is very limited. Um, so we had the merch, the podcast, the Discord community, my accounts. I think at one point I was growing about 100,000 followers every single month. Right, I was getting at least a couple viral videos a week. So I had all that, and I'm not gonna lie, I was young and ignorant, and what does it say? Quick success builds ignorance, and slow success builds competence, or something like that.
I'm not aware of that
Like
one.
I feel like I heard that somewhere, but I mean, think about it. I Everything happened so quickly, and I was 21, 22 in a relationship with a lot of money. Not a lot in terms of like Andrew Tate, whatever type, or Donald Trump, whatever, all these frou-frou luxury everything kind of guys. But for being my age and not really coming from a lot, having that much money at one time and seeing it consistently come in, I was not mature enough in the business stance to deal with that appropriately. Oh, we are getting a call.
It's
Hello?
all right. Go ahead.
I'm kidding. um, so with that, I mean, dude, out trips to Miami, new clothes, new jewelry, trips to Michigan, all over. Instead of doing what I should have done, made a business bank account, funnel everything through the business, and actually do a little bit of bookkeeping. That was one of the places where I really messed up. And so that also took a hit, right? Because I started to spend the money faster than I could make the money, especially when I started to slow down on my end, but my lifestyle didn't. Because then I had that really bad breakup in 2021 that you were there for,
Yep.
where everything went to hell after that. I did not cope with that well at all. I got myself in quite the pickle.
Yeah, you
Quite,
definitely hit a dark spot.
yeah. Because then I went down and I was up a little bit because I was newly single with a bunch of free time and a bunch of money. But then I went even further down, and then I got up a little bit more because then that's when I moved in with my roommate Mike. Tried to restart the podcast again, which for those of you that don't know, I was still an addict then. I would do bumps before the podcast episode, like, and no one knew how bad my addiction was at that time. I was making videos out, and you could if you really pay attention, right? If you watch my early content versus my content during that time, you could see I was not doing okay. You could see in my face how unhealthy and tired I was. Um, and it just wasn't what it was at that point because I pretty much lost myself.
I know the
Um,
times I reached out to you trying to check in, you pretty much tried to avoid saying too much because you didn't tell me about the addiction issue until you were getting past it. And when I would ask you, you're doing all right and what's going on and yada yada, you would play it off. So you spent a little time avoiding it, but you definitely gotten past that and you've grown from it. So you got some lessons there that you can put into your efforts,
yeah, almost not almost past a year sober now. It was a year October 13th.
and that's great work.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone thought I was gonna be in a rehab or mental institution, or ironically, my dad said mental institution. My mother said rehab. I said I'm gonna do this by myself. I really didn't though. As much as yes, it was me that had to do it. Um, it took God humbling me very, very hard on a life situation. It was mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake, and I was because what? Let me try to follow the timeline here. Because started season 2 of the podcast, started to get a little better, and then I lost the job I was at the time. So then I just got worse and worse and worse, and I just couldn't hold the job. I was trying to go from solely an addict to now doing like a functional addiction. Like I still want my addiction, but I want to be able to live life, like progress in life. I found out you can't do that. That's not really. I'm surprised I was able to do it as long as I did, honestly. Um, but at that time, I found my fiance, and I was just trying to restart everything, kind of get everything and get grounded again. But I was being shown so hard that like I needed to fully overcome what I was going through in order to move to the space where I know I should have been and should be. So I was messing up in my personal life, I was messing up in my relationship, I was messing up at work. And finally, when everything finally came to that point, Yeah, I know you don't believe in God, um,
I
but I
don't deny
still,
God either.
well, I also respect that you respect my views on it too. But God humbled me. He's like, listen, here's where you need to be. I'm over here. Here's where you are. If you continue to do the same old stuff that you've been doing, you will never be over here. He's like, I will always be right here for you. But you cannot move over here back to me because he never left until you release all of this. And I said, okay, you win. This hurts too much now. And it took it, I lost everything pretty much. So I'm like, you know what? I don't like driving the boat anymore. Literally, Jesus, take the wheel. I'm done. You can have it because I mess up too much. And she wasn't my wife at the time, but the woman that now is my wife sat me down and said, I will sit with you in your mess. I believe that you can overcome this. She's like, I still don't trust you, and you have a lot of work to do, but I know there's more to you than this. I'm like, okay. So I moved an hour away. I, like I said, I got sober. I completely 180 my life. Right now, I'm a sober, faithful, loving husband that works. I just got a new job in the management because the banks need to see something to get a house. The money isn't the issue; it's the credit and the consistent income. Whatever, I will play their game so I can get a bigger kitchen. Um, so I go to school for psychology. I work. I restarted the podcast, and after you, I will be 7 deep. And so I'm planning ahead, posting those regularly. I got the AI stuff now that I'm doing. So automatically at certain times, it will automatically post to my podcast accounts. And I still try to post to my, oh, read Justice Chair. I still try to post to my normal account every now and again when I can. Um, and I just got third at my bodybuilding show. So what happened in the middle um, was I had pretty much lost all of my momentum that I had. Right, I had lost probably the trust of a lot of my followers, right? Because they were relying on me for a lot of stuff, like old clients, uh, people that probably didn't even get their merch order because the site went down before all the orders were fulfilled. People that relied on the podcast a lot. I disappointed a lot of people, including myself, and that hurt. Um, and this time around, I'm taking it very slow. Right, I'm not biting off more than I can handle. Um, and I want to do things right this time because I still believe what we're doing, right? What we did, I still think it is good. I still think it is right. I still get people on my feed saying, "Where have you been? We missed you. Thank you."
Well,
So
you had to fall so you could learn the lessons that you hadn't learned yet. But building back up is not impossible, and getting back out there in front of your people to say, hey, I'm here to support you regardless. And through my faults, I've learned lessons that I can help guide others.
yeah, I mean, I got the Facebook page, but Facebook ain't it.
Facebook is too dictatory. Obviously, we went through what
Yeah,
we went through.
right?
And I get flagged on simple jokes among friends. If I tell
Yeah,
them that
how dare you? You'd think they would know military humor by now.
I don't think they care. The
I
military
don't
has
think they do
taken
either.
such a plummet in the public view, and I don't understand it. It's like the old like 1950s, 1960s baby killer mentality, where you think that
Okay.
we're just because we're in the military, we're out there like killing babies. No, I
Hmm.
I fought piracy. Like that's legitimately what I did. We were pulling over ships, and the ones that were legit, we were helping them with repairs and giving them supplies. The ones who were hiding drugs, we arrested them and turned them over to their nation. That's what we did.
Right. Right. Um, that doesn't make any sense because I'm a part of a leatherneck group. They say and do some pretty outlandish stuff. I'm like, oh my. Oh, so I mean, with that being said, right? I just did a whole history of the uncrowned. Where do you think we? What do you think the next steps could be? Should be?
Um, I think the podcast is going to be self-sufficient, but should be fueled by your live actions. Realistically, if you're going to chase this again, you're going to need to get out there in front of your people and let them know that you're consistently available on, if not once a day, at least once a week, and what day and what time that's going to be. So that way people know when to predict your availability. And then just
Right.
be consistent with them, and they'll come back and know that you're past whatever took you away, and it's not going to happen again.
Fair. I'm just making sure. Speaking of the live stuff, I'm watching us on live in real life. I'm making sure that while you're talking, I'm listening, but I'm also trying to see what it looks like from a third party perspective because I didn't get any sort of notifications that we're live on anything, which is mildly concerning. Um, but it is what it is. At least it's out there, I guess. Which probably is this little one thing that keeps popping up here. Yep. Okay. So we haven't had any live viewers at all. I'm not sure how any of this works. It hasn't seemed like anything has been shared. But yes, the podcast is actually my main focus right now. I think level of consistency, um, authenticity, and also getting as many different people as I possibly can to talk to. Um, I'm not as angry and sad as I used to be, and that's something I've really learned through my sobriety, is sitting with my emotions, right, and learning how to deal with them in a healthy manner, and also communicating them too. But I used to be known for my JB rants, right? Someone would say something to get me going, and I would just fly off the after. I don't know if I even have that in me anymore. And it sucks because those videos always did so good. Angry white tatted up dude goes off the handle. Always got views. But I don't like getting aggressive anymore. Who knows? I might run some trend or extra testosterone later, and that might change. We'll see. But my level of patience, the way that I conduct and collect myself now is very different. I still judge people like an MFer. Like, don't get me wrong, I am still very hypercritical of all the obese, oblivious people in America right now. And that's not like haha, I'm better than you. It's what are we doing in this world? Do better. I need to lead by a better example so that, we can all do better as a collective. And it's infuriating. I take it as like a personal, like, especially seeing other men like that. I take it as a personal disrespect. Like, God gifted you with that body, and that's what you're choosing to do with it. Because I know where I came from, and I know what I've overcome, and I'm like, I hated myself during that phase of my life, and I'm like, just listen to me, please, just listen. I can help you. So
I
we'll
think
see.
I think that it comes down to still an issue. People don't feel like they have the means, the purpose, or the drive. And that's something that you used to help people with, is finding at least purpose and then
Hmm.
backing it with drive.
Yeah, yeah. I almost needed to like refine myself again. Well, no, I did need to refine myself again. The only difference is now I have a very different and more mature and stable mindset. There's also a lot I don't put up with anymore. Um, and there's still things that I'm learning and growing, and that's what I'm hoping to convey through these podcasts. Little snippets of video. I'm still having a very hard time with content creating on that end. Um, Either because the ideas will come to me in a very suboptimal time where I can't record. And if I write it down and come back to it, I'm like, the passion's gone. Or I'm like, okay, I want to record a video. And I sit there, I'm like, all right, hope y'all have a great day. Bye.
You wouldn't imagine how many thoughts I have when I'm driving, and by the time I get done driving, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm done with that.
Right. Yeah, people say it's shower thoughts. No, I get all my thoughts while I'm driving, and then I get to my destination. I'm like, I either have to run in right away, or I'm just because I have really early days. Wow, I'm really glowing.
You might
Oh,
want to try like a gray shirt in the future.
I did. I did a gray shirt the last podcast, and I wasn't glowing this bright, but I was still glowing. I also can't be black on black
Right, right.
because those are hate crimes.
No,
No, you're right. They're not hate crimes. They're just overlooked crimes in America. You're right. Silly me.
crime is crime.
Oh man, you would have had a field day. I did a podcast a few days ago, um, talking about men's importance in politics. And I behaved myself.
That's surprising. But you just said you spent a lot of time growing in your patience, so not
Yeah,
really.
I could have. I had. Here's the thing. I still think it. Right. I'm getting better at regulating the thoughts. I've gotten a lot better at letting it slip. Now the kicker is, I will say certain things just to get a reaction out of my wife, and I feel like as a husband that just kind of comes with the territory. Like sometimes I will just let the most inappropriate or just outlandish thing just fly out of my mouth, and I'll just look at her like, "What's she gonna do?"
If we're not annoying our wives, are they really our wives?
No, I mean like she's getting used to it. I gotta start getting like every once in a while. I'm like, I'm being predictable. I need to get more creative.
Don't worry. Repetition always has a way of wearing things down.
Oh my gosh, like I am probably on every, if I'm not already, I am on every FBI watch list or whatever. And my personal FBI agent is going, who thinks of this stuff? I'm like, hi, my name is
Nah,
Trauma. How you doing?
honestly, you're competing with people like fucking Jeffrey Dahmer. You're not that high up on the list.
I mean, one, isn't Jeffrey Dahmer dead?
Probably, but still, that's the type of mentalities we have in America.
True. Caveat. This is coming from someone who's somewhat mentally stable. So I shouldn't have these thoughts. Those are people that are clinically not stable, and those are normal thoughts for them. These are abnormal thoughts in a normal person. They are having abnormal thoughts in an abnormal person. One of these things just doesn't belong here.
I think there's a little confusion on it where like normal isn't exactly the word, because socially acceptable is more the focus than normal. Everybody has
Yeah.
abnormal thought patterns because they're all unique. However, we choose to express socially accepted behavior, and sometimes people like, fuck that, you're gonna get the full force. which is abnormal.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. You know what I would like to do though is have the time to redo my merch site and coaching. School has been kicking my behind. And so this, like I said before, this is the one thing I at least want to stay consistent with. If I can get 2 to 3 podcasts out a week, I'll be happy with that for now. I'm hoping maybe during winter break to redo my coaching site at least, and then merch site as followed. Because I usually always had 3 sites. I had one for coaching, one for merch, one for podcast.
But
Right now we have one.
with your coaching now, do you have a new perspective and a new approach to life to give a deeper insight to the people seeking advice?
Oh, 100%. Um, I feel like also back then when I did my coaching, as helpful as it was, um, and how I was able to relate on so many different things, I spent the 2 years going through a completely different set of things. Because not only that, now I can also help people who are struggling with addiction, both sides of infidelity, marriage life, finding your way back to faith, religion, whatever. I still coach on my 4-tier coaching program. I even came out with a daily journal that's on Amazon. A little proud of myself about that. It's published. It's still physical health, mental health, spiritual health, and community. And here's the thing: I allowed that to slip. I fell into my addiction, lost 2 years. I used those same principles to build myself back up to where I am now. I got right with God. I got rid of all the bad influences in my life and only kept the ones I needed there that helped support me every step of the way, which was literally my wife and my best friend, which is really all I needed. Um, I started getting back in the gym. I had a coach that coached me, and I started being consistent through everything. And then not only that, I started taking care of my mental health. I started actually sitting with my feelings. I started actually vocalizing a lot of stuff to my friend. I would say friends, but my one friend. And he kind of helps me sort out, what's rational versus irrational, which again ties into the community. But I wouldn't have those clear thoughts if I didn't take care of my physical attribute. And I wouldn't even still be here if it wasn't my spiritual. I wouldn't even have any of that if it wasn't for my relationship with God. So, is my coaching new? No. Is it deeper? And did I just prove that my program works? Yes.
But at least now it's not the words of somebody who says, I wish somebody would have told me. It's the words of somebody who says, I told me and now it works.
Yeah. I mean, that's honestly the best way to try anything out is be like, all right, I'm going to test it on myself and see what happens. And go figure. Since my wife and I got married February 2nd and I moved in, I started taking care of all the bills, registered for the bodybuilding show, registered for school, started my own business, got a new job, still run my own business, started the podcast. Excuse me. I take care of a household, I lead a family. Like, I, not to pat myself on the back, but I've been damn near trophy husband of the freaking year.
This also is tied to another one of my things. Like some of the listeners and some of the people who are your TikTok fans have this like anti-woman mentality, and they would bring it into the Discord in the past, where like they think
Mm-hmm.
that it's important to be a man outside of a woman and not to rely on a woman. But that's such a wrong ideology and not what you ever preached or I would ever preach, because behind any strong man is always a strong woman and working together
Mm-hmm.
to build something together.
So
I wanted to make that clear.
yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up because I've mentioned this before. Um, but here's the thing that like, if you're in a really really close relationship with, women don't realize the power that they have over their husbands. Not over like in a dominating way, but the influence that they have in terms of if I'm pissed off, he's pissed off. Sorry, he's not pissed off, but my mood is affecting his mood. I should use a little more softer verbiage there. Your man's not going to come in and just start breaking stuff just because you're in a mood. He might, and if he does, call somebody. You need help. But my wife, whatever mood that she's in, directly affects my mood. And it's not saying I'm codependent on her, like you need to make me happy. It's no, if the person I care about most, you know, oh, I hear children.
Grandson.
Grandson. I keep forgetting you're a grandpa. Which one is that? One of 17?
No, I've only got one grandchild.
Okay, well, you have
6 kids.
Yeah, you got 9 kids. So that would mathematically equate to like 43 grandchildren. So, I mean, it's funny though because God has a sense of humor. I used to make fun of you for the amount of kids that you have, and I have 5 now. So God's like, all right, how do you like it? And it's awesome. They're great. Sometimes. A lot of the times. Then there's other times where you're like, jerk.
They're a definite source of lessons.
Oh my gosh. And Ava, our 9-year-old, she has her mother's attitude. I hate it and love it at the same time because there's sometimes she gives it right back to my wife. And I'm looking at my wife like, now you know how I feel. And it is, I feel bad for it because it's a lot to deal with sometimes. But there's sometimes where I'm just sitting there and I'm just giggling.
It's the little things in life.
Oh, yeah.
But to go back to it, absolutely, the way that my wife, her energy affects me, it influences the way I'm going to go out and infect the world. Because when I go to work, if I leave and she's not in a good mood, I'm not going to work in a good mood, and I'm not going to express myself in a good mood. And people are going to have to deal with that side of me because I didn't get to know that my wife was happy in her day.
Yeah. Especially again, this goes back to the uncrowned stuff. If you are a traditional masculine male, you're usually the breadwinner. You're usually the one going out in some way, shape, or form and fighting that world, which is not a nice world to men by any means. If you go out and you fight true and honestly, and you come home and the mood is off, and you know that you just went to do all this and come home and you don't bring home usually all the goods in the same day, but like you're bringing home something to provide for your family and your wife is not happy, you're like, oh, why'd I just go and do all that if you're still going to be miserable?
Yeah. And it's something a lot of people face where they're in unromantic relationships where it's just convenient to be together. And that's a sad place to be.
Yeah. That's, hope he doesn't hear it, but that's basically my dad. He's told me it's cheaper to keep her, and they joke around about it. And I'm like, hey, that's not healthy. But I also wanted to add this though. I'm not saying women can never be upset because their man goes and provides, right? Everyone is allowed to have their own emotions. What I'm saying is, if it's without reason, don't make your emotions your man's problem because he's already going out and fighting the good fight for you. The last thing he wants to do is come home and you're on him about, I don't know, give me something random.
The fucking trash being taken out.
Exactly. That's usually the go-to. And he's like, okay. Like, come home and just peace. If you have a good leader, masculine man in the household, again, I'm not saying you can never ever have feelings, but you guys need to be able to come together That home needs to be everyone's safe space. The outside world sucks. It's scary.
There's a healthy way to get through problems where you guys discuss the problem, talk about it, and work it together. Not the subverted, I'm mad, so you're just gonna get this energy from me, and then if you catch on and you fix it without me telling you, then I'll be happy, but I shouldn't have to tell you. Like, it's immature, and a lot of people have to go through this because I don't know what you're thinking. You need to communicate that with me so that way we can work together.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I usually ask my wife, I'm like, is there any way that I can help? Is there any way that you need me to show up? So I, no, not really. I'm like, okay, I will be here if you need something. A lot of guys, they'll try to force you to be like, no, what do you need? What do you need? What's wrong with it? I gave her chance. I will take a step back. But something that a lot of guys don't realize too, especially with the feminine energy, is women are chaotic. They are all over the place. And gentlemen, again, everything we're talking about, all is a part of what it means to be uncrowned, by the way, just in case you think we're going off on a tangent here. Which we sometimes do, is women want you to play into their chaos. They want you to be chaotic with them. But that's only because that's what they're used to. That's not what they want. That's not what they actually want at all. That may be what they want, but that's not what they need. Let me correct myself. They want you to be back and forth, just going at it, be crazy with her. And if you just remain in your frame and you just sit with her in her chaos, she will calm down. Eventually, at some point, all that energy will realize, like, oh, 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 this is not what we're doing. Okay. Because as a man, you need to be able to just sit with her and just create that space. Let her be crazy. Let her have her moment. I'll call women crazy. Hint, hint, wink, wink, before someone comes at me. Let her have her moment. And then when she's finally like, okay, you done huffing and puffing? Okay. Now we can actually, is that all out? Now we can actually talk and move forward with something. I allowed you the space to do whatever you needed to do. You're good? Okay. Now we can move forward.
And that statement you said earlier about, how can I show up for you? It takes a long time for a man to learn to say those words because it took me forever. And then once I started saying it, I found more often than not my wife was faced with the decision of telling me how I could fix the problem or she was going to handle it. And it was no longer a problem of me trying to solve something without any information.
Yeah, no, gentlemen, you need to be able to control the ball. Where does that ball go? Is it going to be in your court all the time, or is it going to be in her court? Like, nope, whatever you need, I'm here for you. My offer is there. It is up to you now to figure out what you are going to do with me. There you go. And she'll go, no, no, what? Especially if she's never had that before, she won't know what to do with it.
And that's not to say that, it's to shy away from the problem. It's just to say that sometimes women don't want a solution. They just want to be mad about something. They just want to be in their moment and they want someone to hear it. That person should be you as their husband.
Yeah, and this is a big lesson that I've learned, especially over the last year or so. I can't solve every problem. Every concern my wife brings to me, and she's demanding answers or something, there's no way that I can solve them. I can answer them. I'm not Gandhi, Jesus, or Martin Luther King Jr. I don't have all the answers, and I can't solve all the problems. But I can, like I said before, I can just be with you. I can just sit until things can, calm. And sometimes that's all they want. They probably don't expect you to have an answer, because if you do have an answer, it's probably going to be the wrong one because they don't even know what the answer is. Sometimes they just need to know you are here.
I also learned she doesn't like when I ask her, so if you don't know what the problem is, how am I supposed to work on it? Sometimes you gotta learn not to ask the question.
No, no. Those things we just think about. The amount of times in my head where I'm like, I'm just sitting there, and I'm glad that a lot of it's over text sometimes. Because I'll just sit there and I'm like, um logically nothing is making sense here, and I don't know how to answer or respond to what you're saying because it doesn't make sense.
That's that whole
I
brain chemistry thing where like they think a certain way, cannot like as a standard, across the board because everybody thinks differently. You're right. We already covered that.
Mhm.
But as a standard, women have a different wavelength than what men have, and we just clash sometimes because we don't take into account the other person when we're talking. All we care about is how we feel about the subject.
Well, oh my gosh, dude! I just saw this. I sent it to my buddy. It was this Instagram reel. I'll probably do a green screen over because it hit so hard, but it was very short, and the message was profound. This gentleman was interviewing a woman for a podcast, and he's like, "Oh, I see the ring on your finger. Are you married? This, that. Okay, cool, awesome. Um, is your
Is she
husband
happy?
happy?"
Yeah.
And she just what? She's like, I'm used to people asking me if aren't you supposed to ask me if I'm happy? He's like, no. He's like, you're here. He's like, I'm talking with you. He's like, your husband's not. So if I'm asking about your marriage, is he happy? And boom, shut down. She goes, she just, I don't remember. Did she even give an answer? She
No,
just
and
stayed silent.
it looked like she got angry actually. Like that it wasn't about her all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think that is a big like differentiating factor. And I sent it over to my buddy, um, and he's like, "You want to know why?" Is because oh no, never mind. It was about a different video. Disregard, dude. We send each other so much stuff. I lose track of what we talk about half the time. But all of that, guys, to kind of bring everything back together. That was a fun little aside. Um, Doing things like that, being able to go to work and face the world, know your emotions, control your emotions, be there emotionally for your partner, and be able to sit with them in your masculine frame to allow her to have that feminine flow, all while still operating, regardless of how you feel and whether or not you know all the answers or not. That's part of being an uncrowned king. That's the the crown that you never got, but man, you wear it well. So we talked about the history. We talked about, what's kind of currently going on, where we'd like to see it, little things and like real world applications of what this kind of looks like a little bit. And there's so much more that goes into it, which is why we always end up having stuff to talk about once we get into a good conversation. Um, Hopefully, you know, we can make this more of a regular thing. I miss our talks. I miss our discussions. I always feel like we get some good stuff out of it. And when we didn't, it was usually my fault because of things that I was going through. Um, but things are a lot better now. I'm a lot clearer minded, and I plan to stay that way. I enjoy this. This is nice. I like being able to think.
Right.
Um, so I know you're not really big on social media. If you want to drop anything so that people can find you or follow you, please, the floor is yours. Other than that, do you have any comments, questions, or concerns as we close out here?
As far as social media goes, I'm just a background character in the story right now. I don't really have anything. I asked you the questions I had while we were chatting about the topics, and I just want to make sure that when you're doing this, that you base it with without feeling guilty about what has happened, because you're not going to give your all if you're constantly judging now or the future on the past.
Yeah, I feel like that is good advice for a lot of people right now, and good advice, especially going into the new year. Got election coming up. Everything's a little crazy. But with that being said, guys, thank you so much for listening. As always, like, share, subscribe to the podcast for the love of God as we're trying to rebuild this up. Every little bit counts and is appreciated, and you will be updated as such. I think I got one episode coming out this Friday, this Monday, and so this episode will come out next Friday. What date is next Friday? Just so people are twacking. Was that the 9th? Something like that?
Nope, the 8th.
November the 8th. I was close, but not really.
You mean not this week, but the week after, right?
Word.
Yep, the 8th.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Now, posting schedule for the time being, so everyone is on track. It is Mondays and Fridays at 12 p.m. So at least 2 podcasts a week. Ideally, if I can get ahead of schedule enough, I might throw randoms in there if I have the time for it. But that is the minimum requirement that I'm making for myself, is to at least get you guys 2 podcasts a week. Audio, at least. I'm not going to shoot for the stars here. I at least want to get you guys the audio. Video takes a little bit more time. I get to it when I can. But at least you guys have something. So don't judge me. But all right. Thank you, so Chaz. Thank you again. I always appreciate it.
Yeah, it was good to be here.
Yeah, just like old times. As always, stay positive, stay motivated, stay uncrowned. It's loading, stopping, maybe. Okay.